COVID has put a strain on so many businesses this year, and radio stations are no exception. Local stations have arguably been affected more by the pandemic than others because they are often funded locally. There are many types of radio stations, some with annual rolling licences, but others who only broadcast around special events. These stations have temporary licences and only broadcast for a few weeks of the year. A good example of this type of station is Rocket FM in Lewes, who provide coverage for the Lewes Bonfire event, which this year has been called off. I'm Louis, and I'm interested to find out how much Rocket FM relies on the Lewes Bonfire happening, and if they're broadcasting at all. I'm outside St Mary's Social Centre here in Lewes, which is the headquarters of Rocket FM. Rocket FM's main purpose is to provide coverage of the Lewes Bonfire event, but since it's been called off this year, they're not here in the studio, unfortunately. Rocket FM have a temporary licence to broadcast only a few weeks of the year around the Lewes Bonfire event in order to provide public information and coverage, but I want to find out, when they are here, exactly what goes on behind these doors. To do so, I've been in touch with Rocket FM station manager Roger Stamp, who kindly agreed to speak to me in an online interview, in which I had the opportunity to ask him all about the radio station and shed some light on all what usually goes on in the lead up to and during the famous Lewes Bonfire. Hi Roger.
Hello there, Louis.
Hi, thank you for being with me this afternoon. First of all, tell me a bit about yourself, just who you are and what you do.
I'm station manager and chair of Rocket FM. I used to work in television, and I've been involved with Rocket for about 10 years, I suppose. Rocket FM is a community radio station that was started about 20 years ago by a group of enthusiasts in Lewes. And the idea was to broadcast a radio station during the bonfire season in Lewes, which is you probably know, but some people won't, is quite lively. Lewes has an amazing tradition of bonfire night celebrations with different bonfire societies. This year, bonfire hasn't gone on, so we've taken the decision we weren't going to do Rocket FM this year for COVID reasons and because there was no bonfire to cover in any event.
Okay, and how did Rocket FM come about? When and how did it start?
Radio Caburn was the first incarnation of it. And that developed into Rocket FM. So once a year, a group of us get together and set up a radio station to broadcast in Lewes on FM and on the internet and cover bonfire topics, local politics, local history, and things of interest to people in Lewes. The original founders of Rocket FM cobbled together some equipment, had a bit of a struggle, and eventually got a license and started broadcasting. And over the years, the things come back every year. I think we missed 1 year in 2013. But basically, every year we come together and we broadcast. And gradually over the years, we've upped the quality of the signal. We've now got a transmitting aerial on a building in Lewes. And so what we do is we just basically build a little studio once a year at the beginning of October, and we ask around with all of the people in Lewes who'd like to volunteer to play music, to be a DJ, to run a little show, and we get a whole selection of Lewes characters who come in. Some of them are passionate about their music, some of them are passionate about bonfire, some of them are local politicians. They all come in, give of their services free, and we run a local radio station for a couple of weeks.
Okay, brilliant. You've talked a bit about the FM licence. One of my questions was, how do you get an FM licence in the first place?
Radio in the UK is all regulated by a government body called Ofcom. And everybody, including the BBC and ITV and local radio stations, all have to have licences from Ofcom. Ofcom charges you depending what it is you're doing. The problem is it costs thousands and thousands of pounds to buy a licence from Ofcom to transmit on FM. It's cheaper if you do everything on the internet. You get what you pay for, really. Seahaven FM have an annual rolling licence that allows them to broadcast to the Seaford area as a local community radio station. We have a special events license, which is cheaper than having a license for broadcasting 365 days a year. But that license allows us to broadcast for a few weeks on FM in the Lewes area. I suppose we are on air about nearly 14 days around November the 5th, and we generally wrap up on November the 6th. So it's only a short space of time, and obviously the longer you go on FM, the more expensive it gets. So we try and get a shorter license as possible. It's done by the day, how many days you're on air. And they stipulate you come on this day and you go off at this day at this time. The second thing that really is very labour intensive is raising funds. Rocket is not funded by anything other than local contributions. So what we do is we sell adverts, and Ofcom allow us to transmit little local adverts a couple of times an hour, and we ask our sponsors to pay for. And those sums of money, hundreds of pounds each advert, we try and raise as much money as we can from all the local businesses that we are promoting. And we've also got sponsors like Harvey's Brewery and Lewes Town Council who give us a bit of money. But those are the two big things that are difficult with local radio. It costs a lot of money to do it, and you've got to raise the funds. So all of that is quite a lot of work for our volunteers. We do outside broadcasts on Bonfire night with a complete commentary of the night made from the centre of Lewes. We've got a vantage point at the War Memorial where we watch the whole proceedings and we commentate on them on the internet and on FM, so that people can get the full, if they're stuck at home, they can get the full commentary as well. And we put up pictures on Facebook at the same time.
Okay, who looks after the technical and engineering side?
Well, basically, Pete Dadswell and I plug everything in and get everything working. And then Steve Pilfold is the computer wizard who comes in and makes sure all the computers work. So we have a group of us. Before Bonfire, we do a little outside broadcast from the Depot Cinema Cafe Bar, which they're very kindly let us do. That's our most complicated thing, where we've got a broadcast studio at the War Memorial, we've got a broadcast studio at St Mary's Social Centre, and we've got people phoning in as well, and it all has to go together.
Yeah, so you basically build the studio every year, and then you take it all down again and then put it away, and then you have to keep on just creating it every year just for that small bit. That's right.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense, really. It's complete madness. You wouldn't normally do things like that, but fortunately we've still got guys who know how to plug everything in.
Okay, good. Can you tell me something more unusual that has happened at Rocket FM?
I think the thing with us is, we try and punch a little bit above our weight. So we have a tiny studio. It's basically a dressing room that's converted into a studio in St Mary's Social Centre. We hang up curtains around the walls. And one of the more entertaining things that we did recently was to get the whole of the Lewes Ukulele Orchestra, which is 24 ukulele players who sing, all packed into the studio at once, all singing and playing with a bass player who was sitting on the stairs. Those are the kind of things that you can have fun doing. And that's the point of it. It's not going to sound quite like it's on Radio 2, but it's going to be fun for the listeners to listen to if they can't get to the town hall or they're stuck at home for Bonfire night. We're going to try and bring a little bit of sunshine and bonfire into their lives. There's a bit of bonfiriness on the radio, which you don't get from any of the other local stations. The whole point is to reflect the people of Lewes. There's a lot of things that perhaps you don't know about Lewes, and Rocket FM tries to shine a light. Rocket is based in Lewes, made by people in Lewes who are nothing to do with professional broadcast. They are enthusiasts. The presenters do get the hang of it, and they start sounding quite professional by the end of it. Some are better than others, but part of the charm is that it isn't perfect. We're not trying to be Radio 2. We're trying to be Rocket FM, warts and all, fun and informative. And you're in people's heads, really, because there's no pictures for them to distract them. Radio is a very pure medium, and you can do an awful lot with radio if you know what you're doing. And that's what we try and do on November the 5th. We mix all of the effects. I mix all of the effects very, very high, so that our commentary is as if they're standing in the parade. You can hear all of the bands going by. You can hear everything going on. So if you put a pair of headphones on, you really feel like you're there and it's part of the experience. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
That's brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me. I feel like I and everyone else has learned so much about Rocket FM and independent radio as a whole. Many thanks to Roger for his time and for sharing his huge amount of knowledge and experience. It has really summed up this documentary and has given us a great understanding of what really goes on and what life is like at an independent local radio station. If you want to find out more about Rocket FM, you can visit them on their website, Facebook page, and of course on 87.8 FM around Bonfire night in the Lewes area. In the next part of this documentary, I'll be looking at how enthusiasts can get involved in the radio industry, which will give us a real insight into independent local radio in the UK.